What's up, Internet? My name is Attack Slug, and welcome to my 2015 Game of the Year Top 10 list for physical retail releases. It had to have a box for it to be on this list. Coming in at number 10 is Resident Evil Revelations 2, a game I did not expect to enjoy at all, but I still feel the desire to play every Resident Evil game. Now, the first Revelations was held back by the fact that it was originally a 3DS exclusive. This game does not have that problem, but they did choose a very strange way to release it. It was an episodic game that had an episode get released every week up until it was finished, and then when it was finished, the whole thing came out on a disc with extra episodes. The game doesn't overstay its welcome. I enjoyed it a lot more than I did Resident Evil 6, and I think Capcom could certainly learn something from this particular brand of Resident Evil game. Now, while it certainly won't stand up there with 4 or Remake, if you are still a fan of Resident Evil, and perhaps 5 and 6 burned you a little bit, I implore you, go check out Revelations 2. It's pretty good. Earth Defense Force 2 Invaders from Planet Space is a game I have literally been waiting about 10 years to put on a Game of the Year list. Originally a 2005 PS2 game, only released in Japan and Europe, and then a 2010 PSP game only released in Japan. We finally have an official English translation for North America in 2015 on the Vita. And even though we've gotten a bunch of EDF games since this came out 10 years ago, it is still my absolute favorite. The amount of variety in the enemies, the amount of stages, the amount of weapons, just the overall big dumb fun of this game is, to me, still unmatched. So if you've got a Vita, or if you own a PlayStation TV, and certainly those are cheap enough these days, Earth Defense Force 2 Invaders from Planet Space is a must-have in that library. Yet another Vita game on my top 10 list this year is Ganga Naropa, another episode, Ultra Despair Girls, which is the third in the Danganronpa series, but actually takes place in between 1 and 2. Now, those of you who watched last year's Game of the Year videos would note that Danganronpa was my top game of last year for physical releases. So you might wonder, why is this game, the third in the series, rated down so low? So the first two games were more or less visual novels with some extra gameplay around the fringes. In this game, they made the gameplay third person and kind of pushed it more toward the forefront. Now, don't get me wrong, there is still plenty of dialogue to button through, and the overarching story, if you played the first two, this one taking place in between, does fill in some interesting gaps. But at the end of the day, with the gameplay being pushed to the forefront, and the gameplay just not being that fun, it pushes it down to number 8. Certainly worth playing if you played the first two, and certainly worth playing before the third one comes out next year, but not quite top 5 material this year. I feel like a lot of Game of the Year lists this year are missing Rise of the Tomb Raider, and that's a shame, because it is currently an Xbox One exclusive, meaning that almost nobody had played it. As much as I hate to sound like a back-of-the-box quote, this game improved on a lot of things that were missing from the 2013 Tomb Raider reboot, which is to say, there were more tombs to raid. So PC owners will get this game in the spring, and PS4 owners are waiting until next fall. And hopefully, they will still go check it out. Hopefully, they'll still go pick it up, because Crystal Dynamics has done a hell of a job here, and it'd be a shame if nobody plays it. You probably already know if you want to play One Piece Pirate Warriors 3. Either you're a huge fan of the warrior-style combat, or you're a huge fan of One Piece. Maybe you're both. Personally, I'm a huge fan of One Piece, so anytime we get a competent One Piece game, looking at you, Romance Dawn, anytime we get a competent One Piece game, I am all about it. I've played the first two, I'm still playing this one. It is still fun, it is still engaging, and I have a certain level of tolerance for the warrior-style combat, unlocking all the characters, doing all the little story events. There's a lot of stuff in this game that I might not ever see, only because there's just so much of it. And that's fine. So if you haven't played the first two, don't worry about it. Jump into the third one. But if you don't know about One Piece, perhaps go watch some One Piece. It's really good. You're a squid now. You're a kid now. You're a squid now. You're a kid now. Splatoon comes in at number 5. And I don't actually own Splatoon, but I played enough of Splatoon when I rented it to confidently put it in at number 5, Nintendo. For everything you could say about Nintendo, they know how to craft a finely tuned gameplay experience and make it fun. And Splatoon, as someone who does not play first-person or third-person online shooters all that much, Splatoon is a hell of a lot of fun. Once again, Nintendo has managed to nail it in such a manner that I'm sure other companies will be taking bits and pieces of what really worked in this game and copying them for years to come. Until Dawn is kind of like Randy Orton, and by that I mean it hit me out of nowhere. I had this on my GameFly list and went into it not expecting much of anything considering what I had seen in the previous trailers and considering all the promises that the developers had been saying since they announced it. Originally planned for the PS3 and then delayed and revamped for the PS4, this is a choose-your-own-adventure slasher film. Some games give you the illusion of choice, and certainly there are characters in this game who will survive up until the end, but make no mistake, everybody in this game can die, or everyone in this game can live. It is up to you, and I have a full Let's Play on this channel if you want to see what happened to me. So every year on my Game of the Year list, there are games that you saw zero video coverage from me over the course of the year on this channel, and Steins Gate is one of those games. It came out on the PS3 and the Vita, and if you're wondering why it had no video coverage on this channel, it's because it's a visual novel. Now, I am a huge fan of visual novels, but games that are primarily text do not make for entertaining videos on YouTube, and therefore I don't do a lot of coverage of them. This particular game was originally on the Xbox 360 back in 2009, and just this year was put out in English on the PC, PS3, and Vita. If you are looking to dip your toe into the world of visual novels and not sure where to start, Steins Gate is one of the highest rated visual novels of all time, and just an amazing story all around. Now I know, a lot of the genre gets stigmatized, and perhaps rightfully so, for being dating simulators, but this is a story about time travel and science, and it's awesome, and you should play it, and this was perhaps the hardest choice of the year in between number 2 and number 1. If I could have had it been a tie, it probably would have been a tie, but number 2 is Bloodborne for the PS4. Now, I know there are some folks out there who are perhaps tired of this style of game, and this is the 4th one of this style that From Software has put out in the past couple of years, but Bloodborne subverts a lot of what you already knew and expected from Demon Souls and Dark Souls and forces you to be on the offense and does not allow you to play defense. Just that little change alters the entire dynamic of how you approach any given combat situation. And even though I may not have spent as many hours as I did in Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, every hour that I spent in Bloodborne was extraordinarily satisfying, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. And this is up here at number 2 without even having played the DLC, which I hear is pretty good, but I haven't had time to play it. And while other yearly franchises suffer from fatigue and bloated gameplay, From Software continues to deliver a finely crafted experience, and I'm super excited for Dark Souls 3 in the spring. And this year, my number 1 pick is the game that I actually played the most of this year, and that is Super Mario Maker. This is the kind of game the Wii U should have launched with, and if it did, it perhaps could have changed their fortunes just a little bit. If you want an appreciation of what goes into basic 2D game design, you need Super Mario Maker. If you want to just enjoy an awesome amount of stages that other players have made, over 2 million of them, then you need Super Mario Maker. If you want to play into your nostalgia and make your own amazing creations, then you need Super Mario Maker. This is a game I've played for about 51 hours, and I feel like I have barely scratched the surface. This is a game I can continue to play each and every day and not get tired of. Now, how much of that is my nostalgia for those original releases? That's debatable. I think good game design is timeless, and Super Mario Maker nails it on all accounts. Not to mention, they're continually adding new features to it. They're continually adding new items and ways to increase the longevity of this product. So when I was having that internal argument in my head as to what takes the top slot this year, Super Mario Maker or Bloodborne, at the end of the day, I'm still playing Super Mario Maker, and I will continue to keep playing Super Mario Maker. It is just that good. So yes, Nintendo taking both top slots on digital and physical releases in 2015. So that is going to wrap up my 2015 top 10 list for physical boxed retail releases. I am your host, Attack Slug. Tune in tomorrow where I go into all the honorable mentions and extra categories and just kind of whatever else I feel like talking about in the last video for my Game of the Year stuff. But until then, and until next time, I will see you next time right here on this channel, and I'm out.